Hey everybody, how you doing? I know we had decided, or I had announced last week that we were probably not going to be continuing these through the end of the year, but due to the state of the COVID situation, I am not traveling as much as I thought I would be, and so I am here. So anyways, I just wanted to go ahead and make a couple quick announcements. We're going to keep this brief. I have maybe a couple topics to talk about. If anybody is tuned in, go ahead and ask questions. I'll be happy to answer them. I'm super happy to talk about anything you guys find interesting. If not, I'll just talk about the things that I find interesting. So just kind of getting started here. We're coming up here on the end of December. We've had a pretty productive year. As everyone here knows, we just launched on Avalanche very recently, putting us at 9 blockchains that we're live on. That's great. Showcasing our technology and our ability to build and develop on multiple blockchains. That's always been a focus of our team. And so when I take a look at what we're really focused on here, it's looking at new technologies and trying to adopt them, trying to incorporate them into our ecosystem, because there's one certainty that I've always been consistent on. It's change. The industry is in a state of change. It will continue to be in a state of change. And those that are the most adaptable, the most on top of their ability to adopt that change are going to be the ones that are most successful. And so, a lot of the blockchains that we're on are EVM today. Nothing wrong with that. I think it's fantastic to work with all these different teams, different token economies, different systems, fees, and things like that. Different restrictions on their smart contracts. But we've pushed a lot onto non EVM chains as well. Things like Ontology and Icon, which are typically very difficult or can be very challenging for some people to develop on if they're not specialized on those chains specifically. So because we're coming up here on the end of the year, we're actually going to be squeezing in one more blockchain before the end of the year. So it's something that we've been talking about here for a while, and that was, of course, BTT chain. And we're going to be going live here before the end of the year on BTT chain, putting us at a solid 10, which is great. I think that's a great way to end the year. This was kind of expected to kick off next year, but I think that with the timing that we have here, this is a good opportunity to wrap up 2021 being on 10 blockchains. So I'm very excited about that. We've been working with that team a bit on making sure that we get the wrapped BTT deployed correctly, that all of our contracts come in and are working well on that chain right at the get-go, so we can be the first AMM there. I'm looking forward to ending the year with that. So that's super exciting. So getting into some of these other things, I don't have a whole lot here to talk about because, as you guys know, I was not expecting to be here, and it's a holiday season. There are a couple of things that we can kind of talk about, though. Probably a good one that I think is going to continue to be a focus of the industry as well as ourselves, I think is impermanent loss. So the concept here that I'm most focused on is how the DeFi space and AMMs in particular have used their own tokens to overcome some of this impermanent loss that people do experience. So for those of you that don't know, when you join in a DeFi pool like a Uniswap or Pancake or whatever, or U-Trade, what happens is you come in and you join with two different tokens. They could be the same token, stablecoin pair. They could also be like ETH and USDT, or BNB and USDC, or what have you. And so when you join a pool, you would add about 50% of your liquidity into each side at that price point. What I think that a lot of people kind of miss on is there is no impermanent gain. Impermanent loss is if there's a price change from the point at which you enter at. So let's say BNB is $600 per token. If it goes up to 605, you'll experience some impermanent loss. If it goes down to 595, you'll experience some impermanent loss. And the amount of impermanent loss that you experience is based on how far from your entry point that you get. So that can be a little challenging for some people to wrap their heads around. And there are two things that people typically do to compensate for that. So the first thing is they'll typically have a reward directly back to the pool. This is like the 0.3% that you see people charging on Uniswap, for example. They'll take a small transaction fee from a trade, they'll deposit it right into the pool, and that'll offset some of that impermanent loss. The second thing that people do is they'll add in a rewards token. And this is why we see these very high APRs. I think that the intentions of this when DeFi took off were good. I don't think that anyone was specifically thinking about this in mind. I don't think that like a company went out there and said, ooh, we're going to add a token that doesn't have value specifically to offset impermanent loss. I think what they were doing was saying, let's just give the best APR that we can. So when this APR comes out, it's typically in that rewards token, and it's not considering the impermanent loss that you're experiencing as well. So what that means is, let's say that you enter in at, one BNB is at $200, right? And you're like, ooh, BNB has gone up to $600. That's great. You'll see that the value of your pool has gone up. It's gone up by a lot. And on top of that, you've earned a huge APR. What can be challenging though is when you consider, okay, if I didn't enter that pool, what would my position be? And typically, you would be in a better position if you haven't, if you don't consider those less value backed, or I should say, the rewards tokens that you would earn as well. And I think that's something that people miss, and I think that's something that's kind of thrown people off this year is when they take a look at these very high APRs and they sit back and go, oh, I got a high APR, but why did I not earn as much as I should have? The price has gone up, or and things like that. I think people get kind of confused on it, and I think that's a challenge of the DeFi space. I don't see a lot of companies attacking that specifically. I see them going after like compounding and token routing and some interesting things like that. But I don't see a lot of companies tackling that problem specifically. And that is going to be a problem that we're focused on here early next year. It's actually something that we've been working on now for some time that we've had in development. And that is going to be a focus that we have because it's part of what we want to do as a company. So I guess that kind of rounds us back to, who do we want to be in this space? And as I said here right at the beginning, I think that we want to be someone that is there on top of the new technologies as they come out. It's something we want to be a part of. We want to be looking at new blockchains. We want to be looking at the potential issues that certain solutions may face and becoming more familiar with that tech, because if the industry is in a state of change, we want to be able to be a part of that change. So that's been our focus, and that's why going on 10 blockchains is such a big achievement. So other things that I can kind of talk about here that just that are on my mind. We had a great conversation internally about rollups. I think that's going to be a very cool topic, and there's some very cool things that we can do here. You can use a rollup to offset costs, transaction costs, which is great. And I think that as we all saw Vitalik's post here a few weeks ago now, even he believes rollups are going to be a very important part of the Ethereum network's future. And so that's something that we should be on top of. We should be looking at that tech. We should be trying to integrate it wherever we can, specifically on the ETH side, I think. But that doesn't go without saying that places like Avalanche could benefit as well. There's tons of good solutions out there where scalability and traffic does cause some issues. And so I see it as a good middle ground solution to offsetting some costs. So basically, with a roll-up, for those of you that aren't aware, a roll-up is essentially where a system that you could build where you allow people to submit transactions, typically like a signature, for example. A signature is basically you signing off on a transaction without it being broadcast specifically to the network. You provide that signature to someone, and what they do is they collect these all together and they can execute them all in a fewer number of transactions than if everybody did them separately. So that'll save on transaction costs. The downside is you typically don't get that quick turnaround. You don't get that, hey, I want this to go now. I just want to bid on transaction costs and get this thing out there right now. A roll-up would typically happen based on a schedule or traffic or something like that. And there's some awesome companies, Optimism, Arbitrum. These are guys that are very much focused on that problem and solution. So I think it's very, very interesting technology. It's going to be a big part of the future, and it's something that I think that we should be investigating to incorporate with our suite of products as well. And I think that kind of takes me through everything here. We are at all times working with new chains and new teams. We're doing that now. We're trying to plan out our early 2022 here, figuring out what new blockchains that we're going to be looking at. That's a big piece of it. But also, we're trying to look at how can we expand the current suite of products that we have onto more blockchains. So staking is something that's been talked about for a very long time. It's just on Binance now, or I'm sorry, it's just on Ethereum now. Trying to expand that to more blockchains is a very cool solution or a very cool idea. Bridging, a very big piece of what we're focused on. The UNIFI token, referendums, all kinds of different things that can be moved out to additional blockchains now that we're on or about to be on 10. So that's it, guys. Happy holidays. Everybody be safe and healthy. And I'm going to go ahead and wrap it there. And if you have any questions you want me to answer next time, feel free to post them in the chat, and I'm sure somebody will relay them here. So thanks, everybody.